Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Reddit asked their audience, who's the worst famous comedian who became famous? They did this as part of their Ask Reddit feature. Are you ready? Who's the worst famous comedian who became famous according to Reddit? Carlos Mencia. With his nomination at 15,000 upvotes and counting, one Redditor pointed out there's an entire subset of comics whose only good jokes are stolen ones. He wrote, Mencia's face would be on the cover of that folder. Oh, Carlos, you are never going to live that down. Big news, or rather what appears to be big news, and then when you look at it, it's like, all right, the headline, Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle announced co-headlining tour. All right, very exciting. It's cool, but it's not massive. 7 dates, starting December 1st, ending December 14th, San Diego, Phoenix, Anaheim, San Jose, San Francisco, Sacramento, and Thousand Palms, California. So it's not like they're traveling the globe. You can probably get a nice place somewhere in Southern California and daily commute to all these places. The tour takes place just after Chris Rock finishes his solo tour and a week or so before Dave Chappelle begins his 3-date shows in Hollywood, Florida from December 27th to the 29th. Still cool. Speaking of Chris Rock, Marlon Wayans was on Sway in the Morning and said he gave up comedy for a while because Chris Rock heckled me. The quote, I started late. I started at like 16, then I stopped, then I started again at 18. I did that start and stop like 3 or 4 times, then I stopped, then I did it again at 19 years old, and I performed maybe 50 times, but then Chris Rock heckled me, and I quit for 20 years. 20 years later, I got back on stage when I was like 39. After that, I kept going at it. At first, you're not as funny as you want to be, but now I'm in the zone. If you're curious, Marlon Wayans is 50 years old now. From Vulture, Friends star Matthew Perry has opened up about a time in 2018 when he almost died as a result of his opioid addiction. Matthew Perry said, I was put on a thing called an ECMO machine, which does all the breathing for your heart and your lungs, and that's called a Hail Mary. No one survives that. There were 5 people put on an ECMO machine that night, and the other 4 died, and I survived. Matthew Perry says his family was told he had a 2% chance of surviving after his colon burst from opioid overuse. He had to use a colostomy bag for 9 months. Or he says, my therapist said, the next time you think about taking OxyContin, just think about having a colostomy bag for the rest of your life. And a little window opened, and I crawled through it, and I no longer want OxyContin anymore. I mentioned yesterday that I didn't see much buzz on Inside Amy Schumer's new season. I looked today, there were a couple reviews. They all seem to be meh. Variety wrote, it's not an exaggeration to say that the world in which Inside Amy Schumer once existed no longer exists, premiering in 2013. Right as TV criticism and chatter was finding its internet footholds, Schumer's sardonic sketch series, say that 3 times fast, took pleasure in twisting second-wave feminist rhetoric into a pretzel, pushing the bounds of good taste, and wryly skewering the comedian at its center as a hopelessly unbangable woman who, depending on the day, either cared too much or couldn't give less of a damn. At its most pointed, Inside Amy Schumer rooted around in the detritus of society's standards with enviable precision. Somebody at Variety's got at the source. At its dullest, it gave into lampooning the same stereotypes that comedy's been hammering for decades. Under the guise of Schumer playing a caricature of herself. What you're not hearing are the edits here. Oh my God, how many big words are in this article, Variety? Dumb it down for dopes like me. They wrote, maybe it's more on society than on the show that sketches about rich women preaching faux enlightenment and The Bachelor remain somewhat relevant, but it's still a letdown when they don't go beyond the basics and end up feeling more at home in 2014 than 2022. One of the premiere's most pointed segments has a college RA teacher increasingly terrified women charges how to avoid assault at all costs, but then distracts from itself by cutting to Schumer talking about pitching the idea to her youngest Gen Z writer, Sasha Seinfeld, daughter of Jerry. Timelier sketches like a brief horror trailer for a movie about trans girls in bathrooms and a travel ad for Colorado that not so subtly advertised the state as an abortion safe haven grab a bit more attention, but ends up meandering to their immediately obvious points. Others are more purely for fun, as is the case with the very deliberately silly Fart Park. A classic case of a punchy idea that obviously killed in the writer's room, but doesn't especially translate on screen to bring the rest of us in on the joke. Inside Amy Schumer seems content to mostly go where it's already gone before, give or take a fart park. Not a great review there. From Variety, Pete Davidson's new comedy series Bupkis, that's going to be on Peacock, has added 6 guest stars to the cast. Among the cool guest stars, Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny, and from Everybody Loves Raymond, Brad Garrett and Ray Romano himself. Previously announced cast members, Edie Falco plays Pete Davidson's mom, Joe Pesci plays Pete Davidson's grandfather. That's pretty good. From WTTW, Jeff Garland spoke about his exit from the Goldbergs. Pretty interesting quote here. He said, I reflect on it as, it is what it is. There's a political correctness that goes on, and I do sing songs that are inappropriate, but certain people found them offensive. I put it all on me. I don't put it on the Goldbergs or Sony. It's my situation to deal with. I wish them the best. I'm happy not to be there anymore, but I wish them the best, and I have no ill feelings. I take full responsibility. And it seems that the great Bob's Burgers hoax is back. This year on Treehouse of Horror 33, The Simpsons is doing a crossover with Bob's Burgers. One of the supposed stars of Bob's Burgers, I'm sure he's a star, but I don't believe the show exists, John Roberts, tweeted, Linda Belcher will be on The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror 33. Now, if you're wondering what I'm going on about here, let me ask you 2 questions. First question, think about this. Have you ever actually seen Bob's Burgers? I know you've seen promos. I know you heard Joe Buck read it during football games. I know you've seen merch. But have you ever actually seen the show on a television? You haven't. Second question. Have you ever met anyone who has seen Bob's Burgers? Some of you seem to enjoy when I tell stories from my career. I saw Regis Philbin in the news quite a few times this week. Kelly Ripa has been talking about Regis as part of her new book publicity tour. I worked with Regis 3 different Christmases in 4 years, I believe it was. He would come up to Sirius and host Bing Crosby Christmas Radio. I think we did it twice, then for some reason scheduling we couldn't do it, and then he came back and did one more. A pro's pro. And as somebody who's been doing this a long time, I enjoy a professional who comes in and goes, what do we got to do? And knocks it out, and there's no drama. However, on one particular day, there was a little drama. Somebody on my team forgot to order Regis Philbin car service to get him from the West Side to Sirius, which was, I don't even remember anymore, 48th and 6th. So Regis shows up and he's running late, no fault of his own. And he comes in and he's an Irish guy and I'm an Irish guy. And he's blowing off steam. He's like, yeah, McDermott, I had to order my own car. And he's not actually furious about it, but he's letting me know somebody screwed up. And I took out my wallet and I put a $100 bill on the console and I looked him in the eye with a smile and a twinkle in my eye. And I said, we good here? And he laughed and he appreciated the gesture. And no, he did not take my $100 bill. And we moved on. Regis was great to work with. I've got a podcast recommendation for you. Guy Raz, he hosts a new podcast called The Great Creators, and he had an episode with Stephen Colbert that was fantastic. I find Stephen Colbert a fascinating individual, and to listen to Guy Raz get Stephen Colbert to talk about his career and getting into improv and how he eventually wound up with The Late Show late in life, as they say, at age 50. A very, very good listen. I see there's another episode with Nick Kroll that I'm hoping to get to over the weekend. But listen to The Great Creators, Guy Raz with Stephen Colbert. Highly recommended listen. Michelle Buteau's Netflix series Survival of the Thickest has added a few cast members. One of the cast members, Sarah Cooper. You remember Sarah Cooper? She used to pantomime to Donald Trump videos on TikTok. She joins Michelle Buteau's upcoming Netflix series Survival of the Thickest, based on Buteau's 2020 essay book of the same name. Michelle Buteau plays Mavis Beaumont, a black plus-size woman navigating life as she finds herself newly single. She's determined to not only survive, but thrive with the support of her chosen family, a body-positive attitude, and a cute V-neck with some lip gloss. Let's hit the college circuit. The Marshall Pantheon, your home for comedy news. Mikey Day was over at Marshall, and he said, I do a lot of colleges. It's always interesting to meet the young people and realize, oh, I'm getting older. I feel you, Mikey Day. Sometimes I'll just bring someone up and talk to them for a little bit too. I've been doing that at a lot of colleges I've been to because I'm just interested in the younger generation and it's cool to meet different people. So I love it. I love that part. I'm going to Google Mikey Day. He's going to be like 33, isn't he? Mikey Day, born March 20th, 1980. I know you're doing the math right now. Mikey Day is 42. Dude, you look good. All right, Mikey Day is not all that much younger than 53-year-old myself, as I lie to myself. Meanwhile, from the Slate Online, they wrote, Shippensburg University has seen many comedians entertain students throughout the years. Nori Davis played there the other night, but the Slate Online says, it should be noted there was a period in which those in attendance were unsure if the event was even going to happen. The comedy night was originally advertised with 2 comedians set to perform, Nori Davis and Shannon Bacchus. However, by 10 to 9, neither comedian could be located. Boy, imagine sweating that out as the senior who put that show together. Nori Davis eventually arrived last minute to save the day. Bacchus was nowhere to be found. Turned out she was, quote, regrettably stuck in Chicago. Unclear what the details of the sticking were. I hope everything's okay there. But they write, despite a slightly delayed start, Nori Davis still delivered a solid set. When his routine first started, I was worried by the lack of energy. Imagine late and low energy. But he quickly started to leap off the stage with highly entertaining insights on parts of his life. Davis gave students his thoughts on parenthood, his love life, the current political state of the country, and more. Davis's best jokes of the night easily came at the expense of the older generation, mainly the baby boomers. Wow, they're even older than I am. Even if some of the jokes fell flat, they were made funny by the awkward tension in the room, given that the event was open to alumni. Many of those in attendance are part of that baby boomer generation. While older guests may not have appreciated some of his routines, the students who were present clearly enjoyed themselves. Davis even ran a set longer than initially planned, since he enjoyed the audience's energy so much, and I'm going to guess, and somebody said, yo, need you to cover for Shannon Bacchus here. And that's your comedy news for today. Normal episodes on the weekend. I don't know why I keep saying that. I haven't done weekend filler in a long time. I guess during the pandemic, there was less news and I got in the habit of doing weekend filler, but I really haven't needed it. But there's normal episodes all weekend. And you can follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And I'm pushing the YouTube page a little bit. Audio-only episodes on YouTube. So if you're sitting there and you're like, hey, I want to see what Johnny Mac looks like in his champion sweatshirt and gray sweatpants, you're not going to get to see that. Meet you back here tomorrow.